I was sitting here reading an article on childhood abuse and trauma, and it was quite disturbing. A lot of things that they put in the article was quite familiar to me because of the area where I came up on the west side of Chicago. Y'all call it Chi-Town, where I had to walk through different territories of gangs. I lived on the side of the gangster disciples and the Peastone Rangers, and we had to cross another territory into the Vice Lord territory as we headed further west. And that's how I had to get to school every day. It was rough for us, wondering if we're going to come home that day. And if we do, are we going to be all bloodied up? I remember being beat up by gangs because they wanted me to, they wanted to take the watch that was on my wrist. They asked me what time it was, and I did that, and then they went to beating me. And these are some of the things that myself and my brothers had to experience every day in our neighborhood. I can only imagine around the country what young children or young teenagers or just the youth have had to experience coming up. I want to talk about that today, childhood abuse, but more so childhood trauma, the effects of what we have experienced in life. I have my dear friend here, Charulata, and she will come on the show and we'll talk just a little bit about it. I'll see y'all in about 60. Bass.
It's the show that will get you thinking, and where the topics are hot. Feel free to comment whether we agree or not, cause he's got something to say. Sir Walter Jones. Sir Walter Jones. He's got something to say. Sir Walter Jones. Sir Walter Jones Show.
Come on in. The water's fine. Do. Hello, everybody. Sirwalterj Jones Show. I'm here. It is the midday connection, baby. How y'all is? Come on in. The water's fine. Listen. Usually we go live at 9:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. Most of the Bunker family come on over there. But today I wanted to start back of our weekday, our midday connections, and we're talking about a series on health, mind, body, and soul. And those of you who are watching live, good to see you, Jackie and Yolanda and Frank and Winston and Veronica. I was reading an article here. They were talking about childhood trauma and the effects of what it does to a child. Now, we'll get to the adult part in a minute, but they give you three things: the emotional health, the mental health, and the physical health. And so once I started this research and look into this thing, they had a thing, the CDC exposed this Kaiser group, and they called it ACE. And it's called Adverse Childhood Experience. And those of you who've been on my show heard me talk about this quite often. It's a study, it's the largest investigative study of childhood abuse and neglect and household challenges and later life health and well-being. Many times you hear about psychologists talking to their patients, and they will ask them the often question of what happened to you when you were younger. Now, the original ACE, or ACEs, what they may call it, study conducted at Kaiser Permanente from 1995 to 1997. So it's been a long time since they've studied this, but it was in two waves of data collection. Over 17,000 health maintenance organization members from Southern California received physical exams, completed confidentially, surveys regarding their childhood experience and current health status and behaviors, and then they were able to come up with this study. But the definitions are, I think, threefold. Okay, all ACEs questions refer to the responders' first 18 years of life. and they ask them these questions based off of 3 categories. The first category is abuse. Well, what kind of abuse? One is emotional abuse. The second one is physical abuse. And, of course, the third one is sexual abuse. And sometimes, oftentimes, we don't talk about the emotional abuse because it talks about a step-parent or an adult in the home swore at you, insulted you, put you down, or acted in a way that made you afraid that you might be physically hurt. And I've seen some of my friends when I was young, when the parents were cussing at them and literally slapping them and abusing them in such a way that it seemed like it was normal. It was just normal to do. The physical abuse is the second one. A parent, step-parent, or an adult living in the home grabbed, slapped, threw. All right. So the physical abuse starts, and then comes the emotional abuse. But then the emotional abuse starts, and then can come the physical abuse, or they both may not come together. It just may be all emotional abuse. The parent may not ever touch the kid, but the emotional abuse has this same effect as the physical abuse. And then in walks the sexual abuse. Now that's all under abuse. Then comes household challenges. The mother was treated violently, and the daughter or the son looks at that coming up as the mother's abused by a boyfriend, a husband, or someone, and then that child bring that relationship into a very unhealthy situation as well. So that household challenge, substance abuse in the household, mental illness is in the household, parental separation or divorce. All right, my children were affected by the divorce of their mother and myself. They were greatly affected. My son was affected a little differently than my daughter, but they acted it out, and I did see it. I experienced it. A parental separation, all right, or incarcerated household member, the father or the mother is in jail, and now you see these kids having to raise themselves in a sense because the mother's at work or the father, wherever, and then you have these latchkey kids. Lastly, neglect, emotional neglect. Someone in your family helped you feel important or special. You felt love. People in your family looked out for each other and felt close to each other, and your family was a source of strength and support. Okay, and then neglect, and then of course physical neglect. All right, and all these things play a big part in ACEs. And what are some of the things that you could do to help these children as they get older? What do they do? Because a lot of people in your church have experienced ACEs. Many of them, they're people sitting on the row that you're sitting on in church on Sunday. On your row, somebody have experienced ACEs, or they're experiencing some type of childhood trauma right now. They can't tell you. But in many cases, they show it by how they act in church. I did a show called, I talked about speaking in tongue or mental illnesses in your praise. How some people who have experienced this abuse go to church and they act it out in the choir. They act it out on the mother's board. Mother Bobo seems like she's very mean, but she has been affected. She has been abused. Something happened to her emotionally, and she brings that to church. Okay? The soprano, the soloist in the alto section, she's acting out. You call it a devil, but there's something happening in the family. These experiences that happen. Okay? And some people who hide behind their speaking in tongues. They hide behind it. Ask me, I know. It's deep. So it's something that we need to talk about, but it's taboo in our churches. We can't talk about this stuff. One reason is because we don't know. We're afraid. We're fearful of. If you bring it up, now what do I do? Now that I have come into the knowledge of the truth, this is what's going on in your house. What do I do about it? You're not equipped. And so the church need to bring in professionals to talk about these things. It's unfortunate that now finally in these latter years that the churches are waking up and bringing in professionals. But look at the 100 years that these people had to suffer through silence. All right, let's talk about this. I've got a 10-11 minute segment with our dear friend Charulata. She comes once a week and we talk about the mind, body, and soul. Welcome, my friend. Charulata, how are you?
I'm doing good, Sir Walter Jones. How are you?
Man, I tell you, I'm doing the best I know how. Today is another day, a midday connection, and we're talking about something that is dear to your heart. What is that?
Well, first and foremost, I want you to know that this show for your viewers is being recorded for their encouragement, educational, and inspirational purposes.
Amen.
So, um, I want to talk about the cost of silence, just to suffer in silence, and about childhood trauma and why we need to really focus on childhood trauma, especially this day and age, because many of us are walking around not knowing what our internal parts are going through.
Ah,
Um, and so to connect our mind and our body, um, what is our heart going through? How do we think on things when things don't go our way, as an adult? Or the difficulties in making decisions. The reason I'm talking about this is because childhood trauma is real. It's
yeah,
it's really real into your adulthood, because lots of times it can affect in your relationships, your jobs, um, your career. I mean, people have a tendency to hide behind their attire. Like, I look good in these clothes, so I'm just fancied up. I know I look good, so they can just walk in that. People hide behind church walls. They hide behind the Bible because they can quote the scriptures. They hide behind, even they think they got married. Everything is going to solve their problems because they just got married.
sure.
That's not so. So, what are these signs of suffering in silence can look like? It can look like, the outburst in places, when you're ordering something at McDonald's and your order didn't go right.
I've seen it.
Just simple as that. There's so much going on of that right now.
Yeah.
Um, Outburst of, teachers with teachers, students, even children right now. I've worked with a lot of adolescents. I have helped raise children and talk to young, especially young girls and a few young men, to see that their pain is real. And lots of times they can't connect the dots of what really happened to them in their life, that it's very difficult to you know why am I in this pain? Why am I going through what I'm going through? Um, and it can look like self-sabotaging their relationships, because they feel like it's not good for them. When something good comes towards them, they'll sabotage it.
Yeah.
um Self-shaming, it's huge. You know what, you're really not good for me, even if
Yeah.
that person is good for them,
Yeah.
because they're trying to show you their love and their support. And so it's these are the signs, some of the signs. There's many other: road rage, uh self-harming, just so many other behavioral issues that people carry into their adult years, and they cannot enjoy life. They think they are by going out and partying, or you know doing all different things, but they're really truly not enjoying. And these traumas really truly come from the abandoned issues of parents, um, whether their one parent wasn't there, or they're single moms, or there's so many different layers, so many different places. It could be cultural, it could be, you know place of where they're residing, what country they come from, all those things. But we need to help acknowledge these these factors of what aspects of my life is affecting me. You know, you have to go dig a little deeper. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna make someone look really ugly, bringing these parts out. But overall, you know, it's only going to help you, where people are looking for their purpose in life. Their main purpose in life is to be the whole you. That's all of our ultimate purpose, is to be a whole you, so we can be a better, you know, asset to our environment. We don't have to suffer in silence. We can show that we can ask for support. The humble get helped. And when you feel not good about yourself and it's the ugly parts of you coming out, you can start saying, you know what, I need to get help. What does depression look to you? What does anxiety look to you? What does self-afflicting look to you? Are we overeating? Are we getting the addictions as not just the drugs that we've been delivered from, or cigarettes, or having sex with the wrong people, or anything, any of those addictions? But it's the internal emotions that we have not connected. We can you look at prisoners. Why do they get the attention that they get on locked up? You see them in a confined space, and there they can only be true to themselves because they have nothing to lose. Yeah, I murdered him. Yeah, I locked her up and I stabbed her 50 times, because there they have no choice but to be real. But yet most of us are out here walking in the imprisonment of our own minds, free, but really we're in prison of our own minds, because we can't think straight. We can't make decisions straight. We're not in alignment with who we really truly are, which is the whole you. Connect the dots. Why do I hurt where I hurt? And pain can look like you're stressed in your shoulders, headaches, physical headaches, um, your knees getting locked because you're so tensed. You're overworking yourself, you're overdriving, you're trying to be that overachiever, and you get so stressed out and you don't even know you're stressed. You can't connect these dots. So I say to you that you are a whole you, with your mind, body, and soul, because that's the ultimate purpose of ourselves, is to be a whole me. I need to be a whole me because that's what God created me to be. He didn't create me to be a half-hearted person, you know. He To be a wholehearted person. He wants us to be made whole, but it's we ourselves that disconnect ourselves from who we are really supposed to be. So it's not in the degrees that we have. It's not in, the positions that we hold on a job, or the successful marriage, or that beautiful house, all those things. No, that's not really shows us who we really are.
Right.
What shows us is that we are a better person to our own environment, which is also including myself in that environment. Am I kind to myself? Am I patient with myself? Am I, showing the care for myself? I can't show care to my neighbor, the Bible says, unless the love that I show myself, right?
It's true.
That we need to know how to show that love for ourselves. That to show that God really loves us, not somebody else, to look for the external solutions for the internal problems. We have to know what the internal problems are to know how our external can actually look good and strong and be strengthened. That when I'm converted, I can go strengthen my brethren, right? So be a whole you, and in the God-given purpose that He has made us to be.
The whole you. So this is another wonderful aspect of doing stuff on purpose. It's like the whole eating thing that you often brilliantly bring up at the end of our sessions. But being whole should be done on purpose. There are a lot of people who think they have it all going on because of what you said earlier about the house. You got a nice car, you got bank accounts or what have you. But I've seen people who are very mentally ill who have all
Yeah.
those things. All
Yeah.
right. People who are the worst sinners have those things. People who are very sick have those things. So things don't make you successful. But to be made whole, you become wealthy, because I believe it's a mental construct. As a
Yeah.
man think in his heart, so is he.
Yeah.
That's good information. Thank you so much for that, Charolata. We're always excited to have you on. We are now, as y'all know, we're doing a midday connection so she can have a little more time to do what she needs to do to help us all. We're going into the
Yeah.
New Year's, and many of you are going to be looking for some kind of help dealing with the mind, the body, and the soul. So tune in on the afternoon to hear these wonderful health tips from our dear sister. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Remember, we don't have to
Go.
we don't have to suffer in silence. I
There you
don't want
go.
to. Sorry to
No, no,
interject you.
no. Go ahead.
To suffer in silence.
Yeah.
To seek the help that you need, please.
Seek the help that you need. Do not suffer in silence. Open up your mouth and tell someone. And sometimes that one person can lead you to the right help that you need. It's great advice. Thank you. You're coming back next week, right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Thank you. Back to you. What's the thing you always say at the end?
Oh, eat on purpose and eat to live, not live to eat.
Eat on purpose. All right? That's what I'm getting ready to do right now. Talk to
Yes.
you soon. Back to you,
Yeah.
Sirwalterj Jones.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Charulata, and that handsome guy on that side over there. This thing about trauma is very serious, and we should stop trying to ignore it. And we have a bad habit of escapism. Somebody in your family, if not you, is suffering through that. And sometimes the best way to get them to speak up is to ask them questions. I used to ask my daughter a lot of questions when she was young. Anybody touch you? Huh, Daddy? Anybody touch you? When she would come home from school. Anybody, male or female. Any teachers. A policeman. A fireman. The grocery storeman. Anybody? No, no. Then she would laugh it off. I said, okay, I'll ask you this tomorrow. Why? I got to protect my own. You'd be surprised that a lot of times these children something is happening to them, and they're just waiting for you to open up the door and let them in, so their whole life can be changed. And I can't tell you how many times I get emails and text messages and all kind of messages in my DMs from men and women who are now in their 50s, 60s, maybe 70, and they talk about something that they could never talk about. Never talk about until now, because our shows have exposed this thing. We talk more about this stuff. I'm very transparent. I talk about things that happen to me so that you can understand that, you ain't in this thing by yourself. And there's so many women I talked about how their fathers abused and raped them, molested them when they were just, some women were molested at 8, 9 years old and younger, and it went on for years and years. They finally told their mother, and the mother says, no, he didn't. That man's a good man. He wouldn't have done that. Or, all right, if he did do it, it's your fault. You shouldn't have been walking around here with your panties on. All kind of stuff. This kid go through that stuff. And then they do a couple things in life. They shut it down. Either they'll shut their bodies down, or they'll open their bodies up even more and become very promiscuous. And it depends on who attacked them, who molested them. That will cause them to move towards that spectrum, that polar end of the sexual spectrum. Whether if it's a woman did it, then this little girl becomes a lesbian. And if it's a boy, as we know, he becomes a homosexual, a gay man. Or it can go the other way. But something's going to happen. That is the whole point of the adverse childhood experience. And it doesn't mean that somebody at the house did. It could just mean that the kid went to school. I saw murders when I was in grammar school. I saw murders. But I was expected to go to class after I witnessed a bullet being put in a man's head. Now I got to go to class and act like I'm learning, like I can pay attention. Meanwhile, my friends are acting foolish in school. They ain't paying attention, or something's going on. And the teacher don't know how to examine that, so the teacher sends him to the principal office. But this kid could be experiencing some horrible things at home, and he's hoping that the hours would pass slowly at school, because he don't want to go home. Because he knows if he go home, his father or his mother may abuse. And these are the things that the churches didn't talk about. They couldn't talk about it because they just assumed that the church, the building that they built was the house where we just praise and worship and preach the gospel and go home. And they could have helped the total man, because Jesus was all about helping the total man, the full man, as you heard Charulata said, the total man, on purpose. So what do? We got to talk about it. Many of these families are destroyed, are broken up. because somebody didn't talk about it. And they swept it under the rug. And so you got to wake up one day and just say, as for me and my house, that'll never happen again. Have a meeting with your family. Sit them down and ask them all of the horrible what you may feel. Fine, yeah, or feel, whichever way you want to put it. Ask them all of the horrible questions that you can come up with. I don't care how explicit it may sound. Ask them. And don't worry about the emotional response that comes after that. Let the person get angry. Let the person get mad. Let the person cry, fall out, have an anxiety attack. Let them go through all of that expression. All right? Let them go through all that. That expression may be the answer to what you're looking for. And then once you find your answer, strike. It's time to attack that situation. So you either need to get a counselor. You need to, get you. Hopefully, it's a believer, a Christian counselor. Go up to the school, talk to the principal, to talk to the counselors up there, and you may need to call the police. You understand? I know you don't want to break up your house, but you may need to call the police on your husband, or your wife, or Uncle Bob, or Uncle Pookie, depending on what color you are, or Auntie Charlene. You may have to call the police on somebody to stop the madness, because if they're doing it to one, they're doing it to the other. That's a typical response. All right. I often talk about not give me a break. Different strokes. I often talk about Willis, the actor. I often talk about him on the show. So some of y'all new to the show, I talked about how he was being abused and molested by the manager, but the manager was grooming Willis's father. Was grooming him, preparing him for the inevitable, that this young man was going to come forth. Thank you, Rogers. Todd Bridges. Todd Bridges was going to one day come forth and tell, but the manager was grooming the father. Damage control. He was preventing this of happening. So, as y'all heard me say this, again, many new people are on the show. As Todd Bridges was talking to Dr. Oz, he was talking about how the moment happened when the manager came over to the house. Mama and Daddy was home. Prior to that, Todd Bridges had sex with Dana Plato, is that her name? The other actress. And he felt that was unnatural. No, he felt that it was natural. It felt natural to have sex with a girl. And he realized what the manager was doing to him was unnatural. He didn't know. The manager comes over to the house. Todd, he has this expression on his face. The mother sees Todd's expression. The mother launches at the manager, knowing what the manager was doing to Todd. The father then responds the way he was groomed. He didn't do that. He's a good man. He gives us this and he gives us that. And then Todd says, that's exactly what the manager said that Daddy would say. But the mother had the instinct, by the expression on the face of her son, that he was being molested. There's a sign, in your house that you may be ignoring. Open up your eyes and pay attention. We'll continue in this vein, y'all. Next week, we'll talk more about this mind, body, and soul. We only do 30 minutes for the midday connection. My time is up. If you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the comments section, and we will rehearse these questions over with Sirwalterj, and she can talk more about it and answer some of your questions. And even though the show will end right now, you can still comment on both Facebook and YouTube, and I'll share the comments or the questions with her. Thank y'all for coming around. I'll see y'all later. Not sure if I'm gonna come on tonight or not. Today's my daughter's birthday, and tonight is my grandson's birthday, Walter Jones Jr. the third. All right, I'm saying tonight because he was born Eastern time, which is tomorrow the 8th, but we celebrated in Chicago on the 7th. All right, so we'll figure it out. All right, thank y'all for giving to baby girl last night. She really had a great time last night. She enjoyed it. All right, hit the share button, will you please? If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, share, and let somebody hear this show that they can be healed right away. If you're on Facebook, go ahead and share it. All right, I love y'all. Take care of yourselves and one another. Peace to you.
Fellas, does it seem like you can't get a good woman? Ladies, wonder why you can't keep a man? Then read The 4 Women That Men Desire, Volume 1, by Sirwalterj to figure out how to break the cycle. Go to Amazon.com to get your copy today.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?